Welcome back to The Grind for another war video. This time we have, I forget how many fights, 7 or 8 fights that we're going to be taking a look at. And we're on path 6, which is where you have ebb and flow knockdown in the first stage and ebb and flow intercept in the second stage. Now this first fight, once you knock them down, they have right back at it. So they will go immune to debuffs for a period of time, which can be quite annoying. Also, Rogue shrugs off debuffs pretty quickly. So you got to be careful about what you rely on and change up your strategies just a bit depending on what you're trying to do. But all in all, this fight is not that challenging, but you can see how it can be difficult once you knock the opponent down to get an in on them because of that that right back at it. You can't just parry and get an attack in. So you see me taking a few blocked hits, and then we do end up pushing up to 3 bars of power, and we're able to throw off a special 3 while we have that Fury active, while the protection is down. So it does give us a pretty nice big chunk of damage against Rogue. And other than that, I mean, this fight isn't that scary or dangerous. One of the scariest fights I had on this one was a Maw, and I did actually die to Maw. It was, but then I ended up the next time doing well against him because I had a better idea of how to go up against it. And Dr. Doom is one of my favorites because he so easily can chain on a heavy to knock the opponent down. So you don't have to rely on parrying the opponent, and some of the placements will have tenacity that can be pretty annoying ones as well. This next one is Hitmonkey, and something annoying about Hitmonkey here is you have to knock him down to get your damage, or you can just play through it with decreased damage. But if you knock him down, then he gets his little passives that will allow him to evade as well as to shrug off debuffs. So you have to be careful and play around that. Another annoying thing is you can't just bait heavies to get your ins because this node has, he goes unstoppable, and it's a passive unstoppable, not a buff. And so as long as you're aware that he's going to evade on you or that he's going to shrug your debuffs, then you can play around it without too much difficulty. You also, with Hitmonkey, have to be aware of the fact that he goes unblockable when he has that yellow passive on. I forget which one it is. When he throws a special 1 with the yellow passive on. But right here you can see when the protection goes up, the stuns shrug off. So you have to be careful about that as well. And I was lucky enough that the timing was just right, that it didn't actually screw me over, except then he parried me when I countered his special 1 and did a big chunk of damage with 1 combo. So I go in and quickly throw off a special 3 while the protection is down. So I have that Fury buff, and it's going to allow me to get a bunch of that health back from Adrenaline, which is a very nice ability to have, the ability to gain back health once you get hit. So I did that really quickly so I wouldn't lose all that health that I had saved up in Adrenaline. And now we're not worried too much about knocking him down right away. We're going to go and throw the special 1, which is going to knock him down, but also finish the fight off for us. And then we're going on to this next fight here. And when I have Dr. Doom, I really don't mind taking this fight at all in the middle here with Force of Will as well as Footloose. So anytime they throw a special attack, they're going to get an evade buff as well as an unstoppable buff. But Dr. Doom kind of makes this a laughable fight, except something weird happens here. I have a stagger on, and she goes unblockable. First of all, I parried it, but she's also unstoppable, even though I had the stagger on her when she threw it. And I've never had that happen before, even with just 1 stagger applied. But thankfully, we didn't have any major issues with that. We're building up to a special 3, and then when we throw that off, the fight is pretty much over. And again, Dr. Doom, just such easy access to the stagger with chaining on the heavy attack that it just makes this fight so straightforward, and it doesn't, there's not many champions on there that are really a problem. Now we're going into stage 2, and we're going up against Black Widow with Falcon. And I didn't actually show the nodes on this one, and part of me is wondering if I forgot about an inability to reduce the ability accuracy, because we're going to see something happen here that I wasn't quite expecting to happen. But once you intercept this in this fight, the protection goes down. And I think Falcon actually just turned off the protection altogether once I took it down, because I don't have the Fury buff and the protection isn't re-triggering during this fight. And you saw right there, she evaded even though I was locked on. So there might be that node that prevents you from reducing ability accuracy. And if that's the case, then I just totally overlooked that. But thankfully, it wasn't too punishing. And now we're going in to finish off this fight without too much difficulty. The special 2 does a big chunk of damage, and then we're just just kind of waiting to bait out a special 2 so we can finish off the fight. Black Widow Deadly Origin isn't typically that big of a problem, at least for me. I'm not sure. I think some people, they might be annoyed with her special attacks. Now, this is a frustrating fight for me. I've been getting a lot better at fighting Kitty Pryde on this node because it's a very common placement. And we're using Falcon this time in war because he fit with a bunch of other fights. And you'll see he can prevent her from gaining any prowess effects. So each hit that we're doing now with lock on active, she's not gaining any prowess. The main overall strategy I use is to push her to a special 1 and then bait it out and block the hits and don't worry about it because that removes all her prowess. But here you can see I countered her heavy attack just a little too late and then she threw off her special 1. And I'm doing everything I can to gain back as much of that adrenaline health as possible. But with the Incinerates re-triggering, I stood no chance. And that little heavy attack arm swing that she has after the kick sometimes throws me off because it's kind of an extra hit that doesn't really matter. She's still recovered from her heavy even when she's swinging her arm, so she can still throw that special attack, which caught me off guard. So I go in to finish it off with Doom, and again, not too big of a deal. Push her over a bar of power, bait out a special 1 and block it, and that consumes all of her prowess, and then you don't have to worry about her phasing on you. And it was disappointing because I had gone a couple wars with no deaths at all, and I was off to a great start with this war and excited about the fights I have on the boss island, or the fight I should say, but then I lost to Kitty Pryde, unfortunately. So this next fight we have Nova, which is a very similar, you have to intercept to gain to remove the protection. He also has Mighty Charge, and the annoying thing about Nova is when he goes over 75 of his charges, he can actually parry you when he auto blocks if you're intercepting him. And that is something that almost screws us up, but we ended up surviving, thankfully, because Dr. Doom is super tanky. And there it is. He parried me there, but I was able to block just in time, so I didn't actually take that whole special 1 to the face. Now we're throwing off our special 3, and as usual, once you get that special 3 off, the fight is so close to over that not a whole lot can go wrong. But unfortunately, he didn't have enough power for me to go into a full Doom cycle here and get straight up to 2 hours of power. And so my goal was to just kind of try to prevent him from throwing a special 2 here, and so I could get a couple more combos in of power stealing. But he was kind of playing a little bit passive, and then right here I just kind of got a bit annoyed and just decided to throw off the special 2, hoping that it would be enough to kill him and that I could just kind of hold block and prevent him from throwing a special 2, but he ended up throwing it anyways. I decided to just take the blocked hits because I knew it wasn't going to kill me, but then I countered a little late and he parried me again. Thankfully, again, didn't have too much of a punishment as a result, and then we were able to finish off the fight and still be at 85% health. So it wasn't that bad, but there was a couple points that had me worried. Now, there are some great guys in my battle group, and a lot of them are so caring, and this situation, someone took it a little too literal and decided to share half of the boss fight with me, which I really did appreciate because I really did want to take on this thing with my Falcon since I did have him along. And I was a little bit worried about it initially, wondering how well this would work because it is stun reflection, so I cannot actually parry him at all in this fight, and I also cannot gain power because it has polka dot power. This is node 50, oh not, the one right after 50 on the right side, I forget which number it actually is, but you can see we were able to prevent all of the rock stacks from building up initially, and now while we're waiting for a lock-on ability to come back, we just decided to push him up to the 15 and bait out a special attack, and that way he gets rid of all those charges, and then I've locked on again, and now we don't have to worry about the rock stacks at all. And Falcon does not rely on his special attacks, so he's totally fine with polka dot power. And he also, you know, I didn't have to parry it all in this fight because we were able to get enough ins on thing and just take blocked hits here and there when I had to and not have to rely on parry. And then this next fight is one I was actually assigned from the start, which is Overseer on this node here that has increased auto block ability accuracy, which means he's going to auto block a ton and you're going to have a difficult time avoiding that, and he'll parry you too, which can be quite annoying. So I did boost up, I put an invulnerability boost on. There's the nodes there. The other thing about it is brute force. So if you have to wait out his auto block timer, you're going to get brute force on you. And there is one point where I do have to wait it out and I do take some damage, but thankfully I don't have to do that all the time. And a lot of the fight, he can have that auto block ability up because every time he throws a special attack, he's going to get it. Now, I did go and throw on the locked on a bit early before I ended up pushing him over 1 bar of power. But it's okay. He throws a special 1 here. Then we counter in, and I initially was expecting him never to auto block, and I totally forgot that he still can auto block because Falcon only reduces the ability accuracy by 100%, and this node gives him increased ability accuracy. So there are a couple points that did throw me off a little bit, but thankfully we didn't have too much of an issue with it. Now we're waiting out the locked on ability, and while he is in his state where he can auto block, and now that it's back on again, right on that last hit before throwing the special 1, he ends up going and auto blocking. And so that was a bit of a second time, first time shame on you, second time shame on me. So, but we ended up getting that down without too much difficulty as well. It was a very fun war for me, except for that frustrating end to the Kitty Pride fight. And I hope to be posting more war videos, whether it's the whole war path that I do or just specific fights. Let me know what your thoughts are on my war videos and specific fights that you've seen, and I hope to see you in the next video.